Corey returned to Martel's house with her stuff. She walked in through the main hallway and put her stuff down on the floor. Martel was sitting in the same chair Corey helped him get to the other day. She was just about to tell him about the murders, but he spoke first. Did you see it? Martel struggled to stand back up, but made it without Corey's assistance. See what exactly? The black car with tinted windows outside. It pulled up after you did. I think you're being followed. Martel pointed to the window with his cane. Those type of cars are a Welton Company special when they're tracking someone. Any reason the Welton Company would be following you? Corey tried her best to not make it obvious that she was peeking out of the window Martel pointed to, and slightly cracked a part of the blinds to see. The black car in question was close to where this window could see. Other than Seva, I haven't had many run-ins with the Welton Company. Not sure why they would be following me. Not as hard to figure out as you think. The Welton Company wants to shut down Mavis, and whatever he's doing with their magic spheres. Blue elves were in hiding, but there are two instances where Mavis was most likely involved, and the only one that has proof and witnesses that he was there. You were at all three. Corey stepped away from the window. They think I can lead them to Mavis. Martel nodded. If I had to guess, you're the bait. Might not work as well as they think. Mavis is basically a ghost, and the only reason we ran into him is because he left the crime scene late and decided to set a trap for us. The other two instances were coincidence. I crashed Captain Fair's crime scene the first time, and he just happened to be in Seva when I was there doing something else. What else do you know about Mavis? Martel sat back down. He's very powerful. He uses magic unlike anything I've seen before, said Corey. Mind control, teleportation, and he's able to go through walls. He's ruthless. Something else you're not telling me? Corey hesitated. She didn't like to talk about her personal interactions with Mavis. At one point he grabbed me by the throat and looked me in the eyes. When he did that I was helpless. I couldn't think. It was like he scrambled my mind and I couldn't even form proper sentences. Martel rubbed his forehead and closed his eyes. You can't let him get close enough to do that again. I've seen that type of magic before, and if it's used on the same person too many times, they end up brain dead. Seriously? Very serious about this. Martel pulled out the wallet from his pocket and showed Corey a picture of a woman he had inside. We weren't in a relationship. When I was in the guard, they thought it was a good idea for me to have a partner that was a real guard officer. That way, no matter what case I was trying to work, I would always have backup that could handle the normal guard situations. There was a man studying these weird, dark magic techniques and using something very similar to stop us from figuring things out. I'm sorry, I didn't know, said Corey. No way to know. I just want to warn you. My partner ended up unable to speak, think, and move. Once in the state, she died a few months later. I wanted him to die, but he's in the floating chamber now. That's basically the same as death. What's the floating chamber? The guard never told you? As Martello asked, Corey shook her head. Not many people know this because nothing ever leaves the mainland of Novessa. But if you go even further west, there is a large body of water. Floating over this water is a large prison where the worst of the worst go. How has this never been mentioned on the news or anywhere else? Martel laughed. They don't want anyone to know about it. Just be aware that it's a thing, and it's most likely where Mavis is going when he's caught. Now, when you came in, you looked a bit distraught. What happened? When I was at the hotel, I heard a commotion. Some guard officers had the area roped off, so I went over to see what was happening. There were 5 bodies dangling from an edge where Fristal meets Meldgarden. Near the bridge? Asked Martel. Exactly, answered Corey. The bodies all had similar holes in their backs that I believe were created by large hooks. I don't think these hooks killed them. I think there was other foul play. But the hooks imply that the murderer was hanging these victims up somewhere. Things escalated quicker than I could imagine with you in town. Martel sat forward. I've been living here since I retired. I think the guard placed me here in hopes I would come out of retirement. This area of Fristal is known for weird occurrences, and I imagine they thought I would want to return to the guard if I was surrounded by mysteries to solve. Obviously that didn't work, said Corey. No way it could have. I've been here for a long time, and I've hardly seen anything this strange. The occasional rumor that someone had gone missing would pique my interest, but it would often lead to a dead end. Now you're in town and bodies are put on display? If I didn't know better, I'd think you're accusing me of the murders. Corey folded her arms. But I think you're implying whoever is responsible for people disappearing is only showing their hand now that I'm here. I think the phantom I made you read about may be real, and it's ready to reveal itself. Corey shook her head. You've been here the whole time, and you're practically a legend. Why show itself for me instead of you? Look at me, Corey. Martel stood back up and struggled once again to do so. I can barely walk. I'm old, and I'm retired. You're young, fresh, and more of a challenge. If this phantom is hanging people up and torturing them, I'm sure he wants the pretty young detective over the old washed-up one. Really think it doesn't see you as a threat? Martel sighed. Unfortunately, yes. It's also unfortunate that I wouldn't be wrong in assuming so. I can't fight it. I can barely get outside to get my mail. I wouldn't be able to track it. So what do you suggest I do? Asked Corey. We have very little evidence to work with, and if this phantom has been here the whole time without anyone finding it, how do we even know where to look? We use what we've gotten so far. The area left the bodies could be close to where it's hiding. Also, the hooks, said Corey. Right. We know it's using hooks to hang the victim, but it had to have gotten the hooks from somewhere. Are we really just calling it an it? Added Corey. It could be a monster, it could be a blue elf, or a human. We don't know yet. Martel made his way over to a nearby desk and grabbed a small piece of paper and a pen. He wrote an address on it and handed it to Corey. This is a place not far from here that sells a bunch of random stuff. I had to hang some plants not too long ago and needed relatively thick hooks. I got them from this place. Not a bad idea to start there. Corey grabbed her bags to move them to her room in Martel's house. Put my bags in my room, then check it out. Corey, be careful. We don't know why the Welton Company is following you, and we don't know enough about this phantom to go in completely prepared. Keep your eyes open. Corey put her bags away, then went outside and got in her car. She took a deep breath and wondered if all this was a test that Martel was putting her through. She found it hard to believe that this would be something Martel could arrange, but she didn't want to rule out the possibility. She drove by the place and parked in a nearby parking lot. She got out of her car and walked over to the shop. It was called Frinkets. Fristel and Trinkets. I guess Martel also got his trinkets for the room puzzle here. Corey shook her head as she entered the shop. The shopkeeper at the front counter waved to her as she entered. Hello, how can I help you today? I'm looking to get some custom-made hooks to help me hang some plants, said Corey. Oh, you'll want Amar. He can help you with custom-made trinkets and the like. He's in the back. The man came out from behind the counter and led Corey to the back. Amar, you have a customer. The shop was bigger than Corey realized, and when she turned the corner, there was another counter in the back of the store. Behind this counter was another wooden counter with machines on it, most likely used to make the trinkets. Amar was behind the counter, a tall man with gray hair and a gray beard. He was wearing a brown apron and goggles while he was using one of the machines, and long black gloves that went all the way up to his elbow. Amar, the shopkeeper repeated, since the machine was too loud for Amar to hear him the first time. On the second calling of his name, Amar turned the machine off, turned around, and lifted his goggles. Sorry, I couldn't hear you over the machine, Amar said with a smile. A customer? Yeah, she's looking for custom-made hooks to hang plants. The shopkeeper put his arm out to lead Corey over to Amar's counter. Excellent. I'll take it from here. Amar nodded to the shopkeeper, and the shopkeeper left them. What type of hooks are we talking about? These plants are abnormally large. They were enhanced with magic. I'm going to need the biggest hooks you have, said Corey. Amar turned his back to Corey and looked through the shelves under his work counter. He pulled out 2 different-sized hooks and placed them on the counter. First, I'll need to know the design you want. Here, look at these 2 styles and let me know what you think. Amar grabbed one of the 2 hooks and he put it down and handed it to Corey. Amar grabbed one of the 2 hooks he put down and handed it to Corey. She felt the weight of it and looked it over. Something like this will do, but much bigger. By regulation standards, Amar looked beyond Corey, looking for the shopkeeper to make sure he wouldn't be able to hear them. By regulation standards, I can't sell you hooks larger than this, but I do some private freelance work out at the back behind the shop that we could work something out. Sounds good to me. I'll wait for you out back. Corey smiled. Just give me a few minutes to get out of the shop, Amar smiled back. Corey left the shop and looked around for a way to get to the back of the shop. There was a nearby alleyway. If it wasn't daytime, there was no way Corey would be meeting with someone she already had suspicions about in the dark area behind a trinket shop. But since it was still daytime, she made her way around the back. The back door of the shop opened and she saw Amar step out. But the closer she got to him, the more blurry he became. By the time she reached Amar, she was struggling to walk in a straight line. When she fell, Amar caught her in his arms. They call it snake magic. Amar looked down at Corey while he spoke. Her eyes kept opening and closing slowly. Amar was so blurry to her and she couldn't speak. It's poison that passes through the pores of the skin. Amar reached into Corey's pockets and pulled out her guard ID. Not as discreet as you thought, detective. Amar looked at her ID. Corey.